Many years ago, when I was on the highway patrol, I had a jury trial that was coming up. It was a driving under the influence jury trial, and it involved a collision. And the person that was not at fault was an older gentleman. I'm guessing he might have been, in his 80s. And prior to him getting up to testify, I asked him to come a little bit early so that I could talk with him. I wanted to kind of prepare him for what might take place in the courtroom. I remember asking him, I said, well, tell me in your words, when this vehicle passed you, how would you explain the speed that he was traveling? He said, I would say that he was going about the speed that a police officer usually is going whenever he passes me. I thought to myself, if he says that in court, the lawyer's going to jump all over that and just try to get the attention taken off the drunk driver and make it look like all police officers speed and are bad. I said, so of course I couldn't tell him how to testify, but I thought maybe I can do something else. So I said, well, sir, I said, instead of using that illustration, is there another way when I ask you that question that you could explain the speed of the person that passed you? He said, when he came by me, he just went zoom. I said, well, that would be an excellent way to answer my question. Let's leave the police officer part out and go with zoom. And then I told him, I said, now, after I question you, I said, the defense attorney, he's going to get up and he's going to question you. And I said, I don't want you to be afraid. But this particular attorney, sometimes he gets a right bit indignant. I mean, he may get up there and maybe even put his finger in your face. I said, now, if he does that, I'll stand up and object. I said, but I just want you to understand, he can't do anything to you. All he can do is try to intimidate you verbally. You have to understand, I was 24 years old. This man was like in his 80s. He looked at me and he said, Sonny, I'm not afraid of that attorney. He puts his pants on one leg at a time, just like I do. And he made a great witness. Well, my name is Richard Coleman, and I'm the pastor at Shepherd Church of the Nazarene in Lexington, South Carolina. And it's great to spend just a few moments with you today. Jesus has begun his ministry. And he has a crowd that's following him, and they're kind of moving in on him, taking up his personal space. He needs a little bit of distance, and so he comes up on the seashore, and he sees that there's a boat there, and there's a guy there that obviously is the owner of that boat. And so he asked him, he said, would it be all right with you if I got in your boat and you pushed us all 3 or 4 feet into the water and allow me to talk to these people? And the person said, well, sure, I can let you do that. Matter of fact, this man had been up all night fishing, and this was nothing had happened during his fishing trip. And anyway, I figured, he thought, what will it hurt? And so he got in the boat with Jesus, and they pushed off a little bit. Jesus talked to the crowd and gave them some teaching, and then after that was over, Jesus looked over at this guy and he said, how about let us go out into a little more deeper water, if that's okay with that? Would you do that for me? And the guy said, sure. So he takes him out a little bit deeper water, and Jesus said, how about throw your fishing nets over the side of the boat right here? And the guy looked at him, he said, you just don't understand. I have been out here all night long in this very same spot. I've been fishing and I haven't caught anything. It's really a waste of time. But I'm sure Jesus said, well, would you do it for me? And the guy said, yeah. And I just imagine, reading between the lines, he thought, I kind of enjoyed your little talk to those people. And I think obviously you're somebody with great insight and pretty special. So yeah, I'll do that. And he threw the nets over, and he goes to pull them back in, and they're just full of fish. Well, once they get all those fish to shore, this guy, and by the way, his name was Simon, he dropped down on the sandy shore and he just got on his knees and he just said, Jesus, please go away from me. I'm a sinful man. I don't, reading between the lines, I don't deserve to be in your presence. I see through this miracle that, you've given me some financial stability here. You know, I wasn't going to have enough money, and you brought all these fish in, and you helped me in so many ways. You just need to go away, because the life that I've led, it's going to taint you. You don't need to be around me. And then Jesus said, don't be afraid. It's, when I look at that, what Jesus said, don't be afraid. We can look at it a lot of different ways. I mean, this is not like when the angel came to Mary and suddenly she's seeing this heavenly being and he says, don't be afraid. It's and other times whenever angels have appeared, they would say, don't be afraid, because they're seeing something that they know is not earthly. But this is an earthly person standing here. Jesus, he's an earthly form. I mean, there's no halo around his head or anything. But yet Jesus says, don't be afraid. And so when I thought about that, it made me think, I believe it goes back to what Simon had just said. He said, you need to get away from me, because some of my sinfulness might get on you. And I think Jesus was responding to that. You don't have to worry about that. Don't be afraid about your sinfulness coming on to me. And Jesus looked at this man and saw repentance in the fact that he went down on his knees and basically said, I am not worthy to be in your presence. And Simon didn't understand it all. He didn't see the whole picture. But he knew enough about God and God's kingdom to realize that he was standing in the presence of someone that God had ordained. And then Jesus looked at him after he said, don't be afraid. And he said, follow me. Jesus says the same thing to us. When we tell ourselves, there is no way that God could ever use me with all the bad decisions I've made, the things that I've done, and yeah, I'm hopeless. And besides that, if I would ask God to forgive me, and if he did, then everybody would look at me and they would say, well, God had certainly lowered his standards if he's going to let that person in. And Jesus says, don't be afraid. Follow me. You see, it's open to every one of us. Doesn't matter where you've been, what you've done. Doesn't matter who your family is. What matters is the fact that we recognize that Jesus is God's Son, that we have sin in our life, and that we want to be forgiven. And our desire is to follow Jesus. And so Jesus' words to us today, don't be afraid, follow me. Well, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May his face shine upon you. May you truly follow in Jesus' footsteps this week. Thanks for taking the time and viewing today.